Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our CLC for Business Administration and Management. My name is Ashley Roseborough, and I will be today's moderator. We're excited to be joined by our honored guest, who I will introduce momentarily. But before we get started, I want to cover a few housekeeping items. Remember, this is an opportunity for you to ask as many questions with our guest. And to do so, please utilize the chat box and we will read them out loud and answer them. Additionally, we encourage commentary as well. So if something resonates with you, provide some feedback in the chat and we appreciate it. Lastly, this event is being recorded and will be made available to you at a later time to rewatch or share with your peers. Without further ado, let's get started. Today, we are honored to have Ms. IrisMarie Williams. Austin native, Ms. Williams received her BA in Management from UT San Antonio. She is currently completing her master's in Industrial Organizational Psychology at North Central University. Experienced in account management and marketing in the corporate sector, Ms. Williams pivoted to human resources after seeing the impact organizations have on hiring and promoting people to fill a need rather than selecting individuals who fit the role. All the while observing how little organizations invest in developing their employees after hire. A person-centered professional, Ms. Williams is charting her path to be a part of the change in cultivating professionals in the workplace. Welcome, Ms. Williams. How are you today?
I am well. Thank you for having me today. I'm very excited to be here.
We are honored to have you. We are honored to have you today. Where are you visiting us from?
Currently, I live in Mobile, Alabama. And I work at an HBCU community college out here, Bishop State Community College.
How's Alabama treating you?
Alabama is wonderful. It's really broadened my, I guess, understanding and interaction with different people. Growing up in Texas, moving to the West Coast and moving here, I've had the experience to be able to really meet there really is a difference, honestly, between the different coasts out here, but I've enjoyed all of it.
Oh, awesome, awesome. And you said that you lived in the South, you moved to the West Coast. Where has been your favorite place thus far?
Well, nowhere's better than Austin.
Okay.
I personally feel that is the best city in the States. But yeah, Austin.
Awesome, awesome. You plan on visiting for the holidays?
I do not this year. We're kind of tied up with a lot of conferences going on right now and some professional development stuff. So I'll be hanging back this year.
Awesome, awesome. You excited for those conferences?
Hmm?
Excited for those conferences?
I am, because we're, most of them are ones I'm going to for the first time. So to be able to network with other professionals and be able to meet people that may have started in a similar journey as mine, but then also really just get that knowledge is what I'm looking forward to most, because I don't know a lot of, especially in Alabama, with me being new here, I don't know a lot of HR professionals. So being able to take advantage of those types of conferences, I always look forward to.
That's exciting. That's exciting. And congratulations on being able to take advantage of these opportunities. And we look forward to diving into it a little bit more throughout the session.
I just want more people to know about me.
I'm here for it. You better network. Alrighty, so before we dive into our interview questions, I have two icebreakers for you.
Okay.
First question is, if you could be any insect, what insect would you be and why? Favorite bug.
Huh?
Your favorite bug and why? My
favorite bug. I don't like bugs. It's actually very interesting. I love nature and detest insects. I would probably say a praying mantis.
Why a praying mantis?
I think because they're something about their movements and their ability. It's almost, I kind of compare praying mantis to kind of chameleons. They blend in really well with their environment, but then they're also able to observe really well, and they're not poisonous. So
Being non-venomous is important. It is important.
yes.
But I like that. I like that choice. They're kind of stealthy and patient. And
Yeah, they're very cautious, but yet they're comfortable in their environment, partially because they blend in so well in their environment.
I like that. Very good choice. I know some people in the audience agree with you. So we're digging pretty mantis. All right. And my next question is, if you could have any other profession than the one you are in now, what would it be and why?
I would probably be, so, okay, this is a strange one. I would want to be a bodega owner in like Italy and just kind of have a little storefront grocery bodega. And that's what I want to do. Kind of eat, pray, love myself through life.
Okay. And the name of your bodega?
Iris is Ivy.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, guys.
Nice. And would you sell like a particular cuisine as well, or is just?
Yes, so it would be during the day, it would be all of the fresh produce and everything for everyone to stop by and get. But then in the evenings, it would kind of turn into like an intimate restaurant with things from the produce. And then I'd bring in like a local chef or something, or an aspiring chef and cook.
I'm digging this Iris's Ivy's bodega. I'm here for it.
There are several things. Okay, actually, if not that, my other career choice would be I would want to be a Broadway composer.
Okay.
Sing a lot of ballads that I think could make it to Broadway. That that I would probably be pretty good in that profession too.
Are you going to share a ballad with us, or is that?
No,
Okay.
I can't sing, but I can make up great ballads.
I dig that. Well, whenever the storefront opens, or when you make it to Broadway, or both, please let us know. Send the invite.
Will do.
Would you bring the bodega to the South, or would you keep it up, in New York?
No. Partially because I think as far as produce and everything, the South isn't a very good climate to me, at least not this part of the South. And especially with the soil and agriculture, I would want more exotic fruits and vegetables that can grow and thrive locally rather than needing to outsource everything.
Sounds like West Coast, maybe somewhere tropical.
Or Midwest.
Okay, cool.
The Carolinas might be able to sustain.
All right. Cool. I like how the bodega is person-centered, which leads into
yes,
human resources.
And it's funny that you say that, because I was actually thinking, as I'm saying all of this, I'm thinking about how both with the Broadway and the bodega is on what experience and what I can give to people, because that's important to me. But I don't know, I like being able to make people feel or think in a different way than how they came in to me, how I met them, whether it's with food, entertainment, or advice.
Awesome. Well, that is a great segue into my first question for you. Is share your educational background of who you are and what inspired you to journey into a career of human resources.
So my educational background, I graduated from UTSA with a business management degree. Initially, I went into that degree because kind of same thing with these other career choices. I like people. I like being able to interact with people directly. And I have a business mind. I'm very analytical. So I was trying to, at the time, find out how can I maximize both of those skill sets. And both of those things kind of fell under management, and managers kind of did all of that. Because back when I went to school, not that it was that long ago, getting my undergrad, I feel like we didn't have the type of resources that we have available now to where you can be interested in a field and truly explore the different paths that you can go in that field. It's not the same field as of what I'm in, but take like the medical field and how we focus so much on nursing, becoming a nurse or a doctor or a practitioner or something, but you can become a technician. You can be, if you feel like the medical field is something you want to go into, but you want to focus on, you like sales, you can go into sales. And so business for me was that kind of blanket where I can find my niche somewhere in there, but I also wasn't guided as much as towards what to do. So when I graduated, I started working for a large rental company, a large car rental company. And as I moved through the different positions, both within their base level local branches, but then also up to their corporate level doing account management, I learned more about how and I say we because of where I'm at now in HR, but how companies will hire people and kind of throw them out to the wolves to hopefully they can survive or not. And I was just seeing so much on the effects of poor development, poor training, not promoting actual effective supervisors, but simply just promoting them because you needed to fill a position. And I was seeing the effects on how that trickled down to early burnout and lack of motivation amongst my own peers. And there's something about I don't want to say when you're no longer a lower level employee, but truly when you're not and you're able to see the way a business is run from a different point of view, how much of an impact that has. And so I decided when I left there to start exploring different ways to get into human resources, because I wanted to be a part of the first introduction that a person has to a company. I wanted to be a part of, well, what do you need? What do you not know? What do you know? I can find these things for you so that during your time here, you feel valued. Because I feel like there's so long you should be happy you're working here mentality, when really companies need to care more, appreciate their employees, because without them, the company wouldn't survive. Without employees, the company wouldn't survive, no matter the individual or whatever. So that's how I got into it.
Well said. I want to dive into, you work in higher education.
Mm-hmm.
We know that burnout in regards to staff members who work in higher education is a real thing, especially now in the middle of the pandemic. What have you noticed that in your employees that works, that keeps them here and re-energizes them while they are, working and trying to deal with life and being in the middle of a pandemic? What has been a motivational factor for some of the employees that you've noticed?
Keep working. No, I'm just kidding. Really, it's just reassurance. And it's because you can't necessarily compensate someone into feeling better about health risks, especially. You can't, it's not a monetary thing. And it's not something that you can throw pizza parties at, because here are people, especially in higher education is a lot also like working for a county. A lot of the people there you have a split of generations. You have a lot of older staff members and instructors who are preparing for retirement. And you also have people that are just now getting into higher education. And with having such a large split between those two, you have to be able to cater to both of them, to give them the same peace of mind, but also letting them know that that's really what we did. We reiterated to them that we're not going to put you in a position that's going to jeopardize your health. We want you to work, and we'll be flexible with that. But we're not going to make you just come here knowing that you're afraid to come to work. So for some people, we allowed the remote work schedules even after our governor allowed us to come back on campus. We speak with the supervisors, because even now, even though Mobile's kind of forgotten about COVID, but even now, we speak with the supervisors to set up trainings for their employees to learn how to work systems more efficiently, so that they're not feeling burnt out with needing to keep up with day-to-day work, but then also worrying about their at-home life and who they're exposed to or not exposed to within that. So we've adjusted schedules for a lot of people and have reiterated to supervisors to train and develop employees and make them know that we're appreciative that you're here.
Absolutely. The work schedule, workplace flexibility has been a big deal for a lot of organizations, especially higher ed institutions. You know, you don't have to be in the office 8 to 5 every day to be efficient and effective in getting the work done. So stepping up in that way, especially for leadership, is a big deal, and it goes a long way.
And it's actually really interesting because even with this, you know, with remote work, I'll say on the faculty side, I was very surprised when we had to go remote that some instructors had no computer experience. We had multiple instructors that opted to retire rather than learn how to adapt to having class online. And years before they're supposed to retire. So you see that convenience in a non-traditional work schedule, but then you also see how many people still rely on certain ways that honestly, at this point in time, they shouldn't, because that, to me, for someone to feel that, well, let me just retire instead of learning a new skill, that's poor personnel development, because they should already be familiar with that if this is where the world is going. Even in the sense of just online classes, almost every school is adapting to online classes. So if you don't know how to teach that way, that's something that we're not doing enough of for you. We can't expect you to, on your own free time, okay, learn how to do this Blackboard system, or I don't know what system you guys use, but do this on your own time. We should be marking that time out for people.
Absolutely, absolutely. I like how you mentioned we should be marking this time out for our faculty to develop these skills.
Yeah.
Learn me something a bit. What is industrial organizational psychology, and how does it fit into human resources?
Oh, right. So industrial organizational psychology, in short, IO psychology, is essentially the people half of HR to a degree, but it's not focused in the sense on specifically retaining employees. They're more focused on what is the organization and how is the organization not only structured, but also how its culture is shaped to have an employee be satisfied in their work, produce good work, which in turn lowers retention. It's all about the organization, how the organization helps the people. HR is more so the monitors. HR is unfortunately for HR, and that's what made me go pursue my grad degree, is HR is that middleman that has to focus on both, how do I keep the organization happy, or not even how I keep the organization happy, how do I keep the employee happy enough to not hurt the organization? And through that with policies, by enforcing policies that help keep the organization not being liable for certain things, while setting a certain expectation for the employees. There's a lot more policy behind it, so there's not as much wiggle room. With IO psychology, there's so many different, for an example, a position for IO psychology, you can go into an organization externally as a consultant and work from the ground up in restructuring performance appraisals. You can change the hiring process and what skills you want to measure for a new hire to really get a good applicant, rather than using just a base application you maybe pulled off Google. You can do leadership development for all of the higher executives. And it's just really developing so that everyone's on the same accord, or even helping a team if there's a department where a team's not functioning or doesn't like their supervisor and there's just a lot of conflict, getting to the root of that problem within that team so that the goals are clearly set, so that everyone's role is understood. Because if you think about it, say like for your department, when you started working in your department, you kind of know your position based off of, you know your role because of your title and job description. It's kind of a clear-cut outline, but ultimately, say everyone in your department had that same title and you guys kind of all split the same work together, how would you know how to split that work effectively? How would you know the part that you contribute, what that actually does to the group's overall goal? HR doesn't focus on that because they're just, hey, we're trying to reach this 85% goal. It's more concerned about the output. And I want to touch people better, because it doesn't matter to me what you can't reach the goal consistently if everyone's miserable, because someone's going to end up picking up the slack. Someone's going to just quit or not show up, and it's only going to cause more hostility. And so I want to change that.
So IO psychology is the makeup of the system, and then HR is monitoring how those systems carry out the ultimate mission and goal of the institution.
Yeah.
Perfect. And what does a day in the office look like for a human resource generalist such as yourself?
Well, it honestly kind of varies. Right now, because we're getting closer to the end of the fall semester, things are starting to slow down a little bit. But for the most part, any day can begin with hiring. For me specifically, my role. So I'll talk about my average day, but first let me describe my work life right now. So Bishop State, we have 4 different campuses in Mobile, with only 2 people that represent the entire HR department, myself and my supervisor. Right. That's a lot for 2 people to do the entire everything that's needed. So my role is I process the new hires, I post positions, I update, and when I say like for hiring people, I hire people, I let people know that they were rejected for a position, interviews, with scheduling interviews, all those, I kind of do it all if it has to deal with bringing a person on to Bishop. And so an average day for me, typically at least once a day. No, on an average day, I'm probably hiring about 5 people. So it's processing background checks, making sure that they're I-9s, that they can actually work here. I post positions all day. All day long. It doesn't seem like we ever have a need for anything else but to post a position. I'm keeping employees up to date with any policy changes. Yeah, I do a lot of hiring. That's my main kind of day-to-day, and I do a lot of the reporting for different departments and letting them know where their personnel is at and what's needed. Or if someone wants to become an adjunct instructor, I let them know the process for that.
And then you said you touch on your work-life balance, like the work balance.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like?
As an adult, we know that doesn't really exist that well. What's honestly been the most effective for me is one, learning how I process. And so with that, the way that I'm able to have work-life balance is by creating lists. I know a list doesn't work for everyone, and find your style. Like that's going to be just advice to anyone. Like, find your style on how does your mind work? And mine works in steps. And so I'll write down a list so that I'm setting myself up every morning. I call it my today's to-dos. And so I'll set myself up for certain goals. And if I achieve them, that's amazing. But if I don't, I'm able to at least see what I have done so that when I walk out that day, I know I can clear my mind and know exactly where I need to start for the next day. And so that's really helped me just kind of just balance that whole thing. Because at first, when I first started here, if my supervisor called me at 8 o'clock at night and told me that there was a last minute position that needed to get posted, there I was on my laptop, 8 o'clock at night, posting positions because I always wanted to be available. And so with that, so I had to create my work-life balance. And that's the thing too that I've learned is a company's not going to give that to you. They may have policies to be able to give you the opportunity, but they're not going to give you work-life balance. You have to see what that balance is for you and be able to implement that into your work schedule or into your work life and see what else works from that. So that's what I had to do, because I know if I allow myself to be available to everyone, they're going to be emailing me and calling me all day.
Wow.
Like a lot of trips.
Yes. And with the hiring process, are you also involved with the onboarding, like the orientation piece?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I'm pretty much hire to fire. So when I'm hiring someone, for example, with things that I've done, like since coming here, before I started, we didn't really use electronic documents. So everything that was done had to be done in person. So by moving our new hire paperwork, I've moved it on to DocuSign so that I can receive those documents and everything before someone starts, so I can set them up efficiently. So I set them up that way. And then so when they're here, I'm still working on it, but scheduling for basically their first day, that first half of their day is going to just be a training day, so that they can learn how to submit their leave. They can learn if they've never used our platform before, get a little introduction, and at least feel like before they have to start in their department, because, in higher education, there's not really a training transition. It's really just kind of, all right, go. And especially if you're like upper level, they're really wanting you to start helping with whatever goals that are happening. So sometimes that one day is all that people will have to learn. So I'm part of all of that and structuring the training.
Awesome. We have our first question from one of our attendees. I'm going to pass it to Anna to read it out loud. Anna?
Where can a person with no HR background start in HR? What kind of job titles should they look for when trying to enter the HR department in a new job?
Honestly, I would say the easiest way, if you have no HR background, try looking for sometimes receptionist positions or secretary positions and work your way up and seeing in those HR departments, or even maybe in a payroll position, something that falls within that field. So you can find like an HR secretary position or an HR clerk. I think a lot of people take for granted the luxury of being a staffing specialist. So working at like those temp agencies and helping people with that's HR experience, that's recruitment, that's truly hiring, onboarding someone. So you can start in those types of entry-level positions and looking for me, I started as an HR secretary. I honestly, besides the rental company that I worked for before, the most experience I truly had was reception secretarial work. And I worked my way up from there. Because typically sometimes the downside to HR is to getting into the field of HR is if you aren't specialized in that. And in like my case, I was just a management major and not an HR major. It was much harder for me to get into the field. So starting as an HR secretary was my way up. And so you can look at different companies and see what they have to offer within that HR field, because a lot of times their experience really is just administrative work. And so if you can I don't want to say finesse, but if you can finesse that same admin work, whether you worked as a cashier someplace, all of that goes into those people skills to prepare you for HR. I hope that answered your question.
Great, great addition to what you're saying. You said look for reception positions, secretary positions, like ESO would be a great way to get into HR. The recruiting, like you mentioned, talent and development, those areas of that is where you get started.
And for example, like for the recruitment, and say for higher education, if you wanted to be a college recruiter, a lot of times, or not say if you wanted to be, but if you were a college recruiter, typically that's in the admissions office and in student services. But that experience and being able to get people on board, talk to people, that's selling people into something, that's HR. So that same experience, although you were doing it to recruit high school students to come to your college, you can apply that to an HR field and you can become a recruiter for HR. You just need, because a lot of times the basis of HR, the only thing that changes are the policies. The policies and the way and the things that you're able to do and not to do is really the biggest difference. Everything between that is, you kind of learn it on the job, because from that point on, it's the organization structure and culture.
I love the way you articulated that you can translate whatever you're doing in your current position to what you want to do in the HR sector. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a specific industry or anything like that. If you're working with people, that's transferable to working in HR. The difference is,
and that I'm sorry to interrupt you, and that's more specific to getting into the field. Like be able to be like a college recruiter for a couple of years and then, I mean, who knows? Depends on what the organization needs. Become suddenly the HR director, because you won't know about FMLA on if people need to take family medical leave. You won't know about Students First Act or fair labor laws. But to get into the field, there's a lot of different fields that are that can translate.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. And Iris, thank you so much for answering it, and well put. What are some skills juniors and seniors in college can develop now as they are preparing for a career in HR?
It's going to sound kind of funny, but one, professional development. One thing that I can definitely say that I was appreciative of at UTSA was the emphasis that they played on learning different business etiquette, both on how you sell yourself to a company, but just how you interact with people, whether it's how you articulate things, professional development, but then also, even though communication, but communication in the sense of active listening. I'd always prided myself previously on how well I can talk to people and be able to kind of fit into a room. But it wasn't until truly working in HR, learning the different personalities of people, learning different personalities in the sense that not everyone is going to understand your way of interpreting something. And so by learning different communication styles and really honing in on active listening, you're able to meet people where they are rather than where you think they should be. Because you can have someone who is a division chair of psychology and is a doctor and has all of these different awards and certificates, but they can't remember how to sign their contract every year. And so it's kind of usually you have to just meet people where they're at. So I definitely say the communication aspect and I'd say professional development are two things that I wish I had strengthened on, and public speaking, because you're going to do a lot of talking. Toastmasters is amazing.
Yes. Are you a part of Toastmasters?
I've tried it.
You tried it?
I get scared.
I feel it. Becoming a Toastmasters member is on my professional development list because I do a lot of this, and the ums and the likes and the fillers,
Yep.
We're trying to just make it a more seamless process and moderate and stuff. But those are great things that students can begin to develop now, especially that active listening piece. You hit that on the head while you're working with people. You're going to be working with people in whatever industry you go into. So being able to meet people where they are versus where you want them to be, it'll save you a lot of stress in the long run. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, because it's really, when you get into HR, really, and I'm comparing this right now to higher education, because it's what I work in right now. Being on kind of the administrative side of staff, you get to learn. It's really interesting. You get to learn about people, of who they are as a person, but then also of who they are as an employee. And those aren't necessarily the same two people. And so being able to be attentive to that is a skill in itself, and being able to not hold that against people because of how because people will see you as, oh, you're HR. Oh, you're in HR. Yeah, you probably wouldn't feel that way if you weren't always coming to HR. Toastmasters or active listening, whichever.
Awesome. All righty. Describe 3 things that have been most important to you in choosing a career.
The first thing is autonomy. And it took work experience to learn that I don't like being micromanaged. Give me the goal and let me figure out how to execute it, but know that I have absolutely no problem asking you questions. And that's probably my second thing too, is having management of whomever they are, whether it's a direct supervisor or just supervisors in itself, that allow open communication. And it depends on where you're at. The third thing, flexibility, in the sense that if you know that I'm going to get the work done and know that I'm going to always complete things, in an efficient amount of time, that I am able to take more trips. Because, companies will try to advocate, take your time off, use your PTO, but then when you try to, you're scolded. And so being able to work in a career field, whatever the career field is, and for me, for HR, being able to complete tasks and live my life.
Well, back to work-life balance.
Back to work-life balance. You have to create it for yourself. Yeah. But first, the place that you work for, the field that you work in, has to be malleable enough to do that.
Awesome. You are a grad student and you are working full-time. Let's dive into why your experience as a grad student, managing your class load along with your workload, and do you need a master's degree to go into the HR field?
No, it doesn't hurt. The HR field, you can get into with a bachelor's degree. The IO field, you need a master's to get anywhere. No one pretty much will hire you if you don't have a master's. But in HR, you can have a bachelor's degree. I forgot your question. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, and we're going to talk about your grad school experience, your time as a grad student right now. How is that going? How did you find your program? Any words of advice or encouragement?
Okay. So for me, my career track, my educational track took a pretty long hiatus. It took me about 7 years after my undergrad to go pursue my grad degree. Yeah, 7 years. Yeah, 7 years. Before I started grad school. So not only have I experienced adulthood and all of those highs and lows, I kind of forgot about the amount of time that you have to put into school. So the transition had been a little bit difficult in the beginning, but kind of like how I said, like with my to-do list, you have to learn your process and you have to be honest with yourself about that process. So when I was an undergrad, although even as an undergrad, I had a full-time job and a part-time job, and I was taking 15 hours a semester. Yeah, I know. I went to school year-round too, on top of that. Okay, so I'm not reading that because I'll just get distracted with that. So balancing it. So at first it was very difficult for me because my job, I'm pretty much focused on that the entire day because there's always something coming up or some sort of change. So you have to be very adaptable for that. So I would try to focus on my homework and everything in the evenings and just normal get to studying, reading, all of that as a person would do to study. But in the beginning of grad school, I was just still struggling with that. And I couldn't figure out why I couldn't balance life, work, and school. But what I have learned that has now made me much more successful as I come to my last few courses is I've learned about myself that I'm not a visual learner. I'm an auditory learner. So the weeks and the classes that I was in where I was just trying to read a textbook and take notes, I wouldn't retain that information. So here I was stressing myself out because I'm not learning the right way. So I had to learn that aspect with while I'm studying, reading, and just recording my voice as my notes and playing that back. Yeah. So like little things like that. And then also I'm a morning person. I'm not a night owl. I've always known that about myself, but I didn't know to what other parts of my life that would impact. So just as initially I would try to do all of my studying once I got off work, I've adjusted my schedule to now going to sleep around 9:30 and starting my homework at 4 a.m. Yeah. So I work on my homework from 4 a.m. to about 6:30, and then I work out and then work at 8 a.m.
Wow. So I have very, very interesting. We have some students who don't sleep ever. And one of them was like, I need to probably try this out. Yeah. But 4 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, you're up and you're just.
That's been my sleep schedule. Prior to all of this, my sleep schedule has always been around 3:30 in the morning. I just wake up. And typically I'm just naturally awake between 3 and about 4:30 before I'm able to fall back asleep. So, and I've been that way for years. So I told myself, why not take advantage of this time that I already know that I feel the most awake, rather than trying to force myself to stay up until 10, 11 o'clock at night, knowing that I'm falling asleep on the book, that I'm not taking good notes. And so by changing that, I'm retaining the information better, but then also sticking to, like how I said, with recording my voice. I can record my voice and do that and listen to it while I'm in the car and be using that study time during my commute to work to reinforce that studying, or potentially listen, or some days if I'm busy like at work, I'll listen to that recording from that morning in the evening. And so I know the material and it's just helping me refresh before going to bed.
These are like life hacks for student.
I'm gonna practice that right now. Like, oh my God.
I don't know if
Because I was honestly going crazy. Like, how do people do this? How do people work a whole job? And come home, cook, do all those. There's so many responsibilities when you get off of work to try and add in schoolwork. If you're someone that can't stay up for very long, you're going to drive yourself crazy. You're going to feel like you're waking up every day one step behind.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go, and grad school compared to undergrad, it just goes by so quickly that you don't have that time to really, well, what can I do to make up for it this way?
I like you taught yourself how to be a student all over again, but with someone, I know you were working full-time and part-time as an undergrad, but now that you're working full-time and you're in your career and you have to relearn how to be a student again, it's really interesting how your body can adapt to whatever the climate, the circumstances or that you're in. And you know, you listen to your podcast of yourself as your notes.
Pretty much. And it's crazy because as an undergrad, I wasn't that great of an undergrad student because I was still using the processes of what others said would work. Mm-hmm. With the trying to reread the material at least 3 times, to take as much detailed notes. And I was trying to use all of those terms, but those didn't work for me. Yeah. That worked for those who actually had those learning styles. And And so here finding this new way for me, I'm like getting A's for the first time in my life. Like I'm having my professors tell me how detailed and thorough my work is. And I'm just like, thanks. But I can attribute part of that to my life and work experience so that I can understand whatever the prompts are better.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I love to hear it. And I know some of our attendees will love to hear it as well.
It's like my mind is blown right now with this hack. Like I'm gonna definitely start incorporating it. Like, oh my gosh.
I don't know if you were able to hear one of our audience members in person, but they said that this is like a life hack and their mind is blown by it. Also, if I find myself up at 4:30, I will be sure to text you like, hey girl, I'm in this thing with you. Because I'm up at 4:30. Now I know. I'll be trying to roll out of bed. But
and if it's a day that I'm not up studying, I wake up at 4:30 and start studying, but my alarm goes off at 5 o'clock. So if I'm not studying, I'm walking my dog at 5 a.m.
In the dark? Okay. Drizzy is.
I have to, it's truly amazing. The energy that you can get from that cold burst of air in the mornings to kind of get your body moving.
That's all cute and rejuvenating and stuff, but safety. I don't know if Drizzy can bite an ankle.
You don't know if Drizzy can bite an ankle?
Yeah, I don't know if Drizzy is about that life.
Drizzy is definitely not, because Drizzy and I have definitely been attacked by a cat. In which I was the person who fell on the ground tangled in his leash as he looked at me in fear, not knowing why this cat was attacking us. Mind you, my dog is about the size of like a golden retriever, or maybe closer to a lab, getting attacked by apartment complex cats. All cats are dangerous.
Drizzy, gotta love Drizzy. I'm going to pass it to Anna. We have a couple of questions from our online viewers. Anna, do you mind reading them out loud for us, please?
No, I do not mind. Let's see. Did we go over, does a job placement or education advisor require a master's?
We did not, but I kind of answered it, sort of. It doesn't require a master's. It doesn't require a master's. A lot of times that comes down to, especially like advisor positions, it really just kind of comes, and this comes from me recently hiring a couple of advisors. It comes down to whether or not you've had experience in that setting before. So for example, if you want to be an education advisor, or an enrollment advisor or whatever, and not necessarily get into HR, but want to go that direction. A lot of times I just want to know, have you worked with people in that sense before? You don't have, or have worked in an academic setting before. And the way you can take advantage of that is through work study or working, or peer tutoring. I don't know if you guys offer peer tutors there, but that could be a way of a segue into experience for that, but you wouldn't need a master's for it. Unless you were going to be maybe like a coordinator for the advisors, or a director or something.
All right, next one. I'm seeing a lot of jobs hiring for HR coordinator, HR generalist, but the pay is shocking, $10 to $20 an hour, with requirements of degrees/certificates. Is that the normal wage?
Yes. It is, because, and a lot of the times, coordinators or generalists or specialists in HR, or even HR assistants, they all mean something different to different companies. So for example, I'm an HR generalist here, which in some other companies would be a supervisory role. But because our HR department is so small, I'm looked at more of admin because I don't oversee anyone. The last company that I worked for, the HR generalist, which their title was HR Generalist, oversaw the entire Southern California region. And so they did everything with health insurance. They did everything for every employee in Southern California. So it all means something different to everyone. So I'd really look more at the organization, but that price range, that's where your degree will play more of a part in, to get you closer to that $20 an hour or higher, or just that experience. If you, my personal suggestion, it all depends on if you want to go into HR and you want to kind of be committed to a career in HR, but don't necessarily want to get an HR degree. You can find those entry-level positions if it's a full-time position, and put in the time to work for a SHRM certificate, because sometimes those, which the SHRM stands for Society of Human Resource Management. It's a national organization, and a lot of times having that certificate will weigh heavier than your degree will, because it shows that you have taken that initiative to truly learn about the policies, the functions of what it is to be HR, rather than getting your degree where you're just learning the surface of everything. But it's a normal range. When I first tried to apply for an HR job, when I was living in San Diego, they were paying for an HR coordinator $12 an hour, and that's in San Diego. Yeah, that's why I waited until I came here.
Wow, wow. To speak to the salary question, and I know we have one more question in the chat, and we'll get to that, but I did want to talk about the salary. I know that you said that the SHRM certificate can help, increase the compensation. But is the salary higher in corporate sectors, higher ed sectors?
It'll always be higher in a corporate sector. They will, in a corporate sector, the entry-level positions probably won't make that much, but once you get to a mid-level position in that company, that's really where you'll start seeing a higher salary. In higher education, it's to a degree, higher education, those who get paid the most in higher education, if you're not a dean, you're on the faculty side of a lot of it. The staff side doesn't get paid as much, partially because, like, for example, here, a lot of schools, it's all state money. So they're only going to be able to pay so much if you're a state employee. So it really kind of depends compared to, and sometimes in higher education, you're limited to certain pay scales. Like here, we're something that's special about the Alabama community colleges is we're a part of a single system for all the community colleges. And so everyone's pay is based off of a certain salary schedule and the amount of years that you can verify that's specific to the job that you're applying for. So you can't negotiate. And so that's really the biggest difference. With corporate, you can negotiate your salary more versus in higher education, they're telling you what your salary is. So if you have 3 years of experience, say I had another job in HR and I had 3 years of experience, then I'm on that scale for just 3 years, and then whatever. But at least like in corporate, you can kind of sell you can sell more of yourself beyond just work experience.
Thank you for that input. And to Melinda's question about recording yourself, do you record yourself by taking voice notes while listening to the lecture, or is it after the class?
Both, actually. So that's also something to overall keep in mind for anyone going to grad school. And when I talk about learning style, because not every school has lectures. My school doesn't have lectures. So everything that I learn is specific to the text, my own research, whatever I reach out to my professor for, and just my homework. It's a lot of self-learning. So but different professors will provide lecture notes or things that they've recorded or seminars that they've presented at. And so I'll record throughout that, but I mainly record with my voice notes, and I do use voice notes. I did buy myself like a personal recorder off Amazon, which is great, but I do like the voice notes because it's immediate. But with that, what I'll do is while I'm reading through the text, I'll just start giving myself definitions and giving myself examples of what it is, the same way that I would write it all out. But I'm just saying it to myself and saying it in a way that makes sense to me rather than just copying and pasting and trying to come up with that example written. So even if I go on a little bit of a rant, I'm understanding my rant. And then I saw about the SHRM group. And even if not specifically UHD has one, knowing Houston probably has one. And you can get on, you can even join SHRM now as a student, discounted rates during the time that you're a student.
Absolutely. And to any who asked the question about the student orgs here at UHD, we dropped the link in the chat to view all the student organizations here available at UHD. There, to my knowledge, I do believe that there is a human resource management student organization, as well as a program, an academic program catered to students wanting to pursue human resources. So that's a great way to get your foot in the door and get that experience with transitioning into that field. But overall, Iris, thank you so much for sharing that information. And we will continue to keep this conversation rolling. And speaking of organizations, I want to circle back to the many conferences you will be attending coming up. Can we touch on some of those organizations that you're a part of? How did you get connected? And some of the perks of being like some things you've enjoyed from each organization?
Okay. The three main organizations that I'm in, I'll see what comes out of my mouth. So I am a part of SHRM. I'm a part of the Mobile chapter of SHRM. The advantages of being a part of that chapter, not only am I meeting other HR professionals that live out here, which is an advantage for me, because if I come to a point where I want to expand my career into other areas besides higher education, I'm meeting people. And when you meet people, they can offer things to you, or even I've been asked about research opportunities to be a part of that never would have happened if I wouldn't have met people. So that's really great. I'm a part of what's called SIOP, which just like SHRM, but it's Society for Industrial Organizational Psychology. And so they're also a national organization. What I like about them, not only because IO psychology, a big part of it is a lot of research. It's researching the questions, the behavior. It's really behaviors. What are the behaviors of people? So what I like about being a part of that organization is I'm able to see current research and current trends going on in different workplaces and organizations, and where we're seeing work go for the future. But then they also have a lot of forums, just like the SHRM website, that are already together, that are quick access. Like if you want to create a disciplinary action plan, those websites could have ones that are already built in, so that you don't necessarily have to create one from the ground up, and ones that are created that have been shown to be reliable. And so it's really useful, especially working like how we're set up with only 2 people. Our knowledge is only going to go so far. So when you have those organizations and have templates already created, it kind of just helps bridge that gap, so you don't feel like you're so far behind. But then I'm also a part of, I guess it's called BIOP, Blacks of Industrial Organizational Psychology. They're a new organization that helps, how do I say this? One downside to IO psychology is when it is the focus going on right now on diversity and inclusion. And with that topic being that for this field being something that is directed by people of color, and that shouldn't necessarily be the place or the focus for everyone. I want to focus on personnel management and development. And because I am a person of color, I shouldn't have to only be focused on that. So with Blacks in IO psychology, it opens the door for people of color to get into those different fields that they want to get into and be able to meet people that they wouldn't normally meet based off of the schools that they're going to. So like for me, with my school that's completely online, I'm separated from a lot of the other people doing IO psychology. Because I don't get to meet my peers. I don't get to interact or go on trips or join fellowships the way that a traditional student would. So any type of organization that can help get you in the door, even just get to meet people that, so you don't feel so alone on your journey, that it's amazing. And so one of the things I'm going to is the PsyOp conference and meeting just all of these different professionals, and they're all going, and I know the hot topic is going to be about remote work and work-life balance as we implement more AI technology into the HR field. So I'm excited about that.
I'm excited to hear about all these conferences you're going to get to go to, all these organizations you're a part of. They're so important. Like you said, you know, you're a team of two. So being able to get connected to other individuals in your field that are able to assist you, even if it's just through the forms and the information they put in through the forms, that does go a long way. You don't have to reinvent the wheel or do it on your own. You know, you have that source.
Right, because HR, it's one of those things of the wheel that's always going to be moving. It doesn't matter if you have a hiring freeze or you're having turnover or whatever, something's going on with employees at every point in time. So the more knowledge that you have to be able to tackle those, and sometimes if you can tackle that without the added stress, is amazing. And these organizations can help with that. And you don't necessarily have to meet someone to know people and network in that sense, but just with the knowledge and information that the websites will have by being a member.
Absolutely. We are at the 20-minute mark, so I have a few more questions for you. And our attendees, if y'all have questions for Ms. IrisMarie, please drop them in the chat and we'll continue to get to them. And we will keep this thing rolling until 3 o'clock. In your experience, what are some challenges you have experienced yourself or witnessed in your career field, and how did you overcome them?
Biggest one that I still kind of, I have a challenge with is age. And being so young in this field, but being kind of such a major key player within my department. Because especially like working in higher education, as I had stated earlier, the difference of the generations. And so you're working with someone that's your employee who will question you, well, what do you really know? Because of your age or how it looks. And there's unfortunately, when you're in certain fields, people attribute your age to your knowledge or to your experience, or if whether or not you're qualified enough for a position. But my degrees say otherwise. And so that's definitely been a struggle with trying to create your place and create your space in doing what you want to do in your career path while everyone's questioning that. How much do you know? So that's been a fun struggle. And especially the same thing like with my supervisor. She, from what I can tell, I think she's probably the youngest director we've had. And so because of her age, a lot of people who have been here for a while will question her credentials.
Yeah.
But you kind of overcome it by meeting people where they're at, but showing them otherwise. And it's kind of, you might think I might not have this experience, but I just processed your entire retirement thing that you never would have been able to do on your own. I just processed your disability claim that you don't even know what the form looks like. And it's kind of, you just show people.
Yeah, kill them with kindness or
Kill them with kindness. There you go.
It's always, as someone who is moving up in their career, kind of, well, not kind of quick, but very fast as well, I find myself figuring out how to advocate for my knowledge without being pretentious about it. And, you know, that's because you don't want to be pretentious, but you also want people to know, like, listen, the degrees will speak for itself. The knowledge will speak for itself. I'm here for a reason.
Yeah.
And just like you're here for a reason, how do we meet in the middle where we both have something to contribute to the overall goal of what we're trying to do?
Right.
That is very, it's tricky, but you said like continue to create the space and have the place where you can be, you know, show up fully in everything that you do and, you know, hopefully have management that backs you up, honestly.
And that has been beyond everything else, I think that's been my biggest game changer, is that I have such a supportive supervisor who will back me up for stuff, who will give me the critiques or will show me something that I won't know. And it's because she has so much more experience than me, that she's willing to also share. And I don't feel that, and I feel like that's a huge lack, that a huge disconnect that a supervisor will have with their employee. And part of it's because she worked her way from the ground up. She started in working for the county as a receptionist for the HR payroll department for the county, and has worked her way up to the HR director here. And but she's willing to share stuff with me. I've met a lot of other HR professionals where they feel like, even for, say, the SHRM certificate, well, I paid all that money for my books and training. I'm not going to show that to someone. So if you keep, or give someone these books that are collecting dust because I paid for these. I feel like when you're not willing to share, give people that knowledge, it really hurts them. It really stunts their growth. I think I just went on a tangent, but yeah.
You raise a great point though, like pay it forward. You know, you saw how much it took for you to get to where you are. Why be stingy with your gifts? Why be stingy with that information when you can help somebody not go through the same trials and, you know, circumstances that you had to go through?
Yeah, because everyone has a different path and a different journey to how they got to the position that they're currently in. One person could have had a direct track of getting their bachelor's, but then was also able to do an internship during that time and then transfer into grad school and be able to, you know, do a research study in grad school and really get this experience and network and meet all these people and transition into a mid-level position quite easily. While others, like myself, graduated from UTSA, literally drove a minivan to LA, working for a rental car company, hoping for the best, to discover, all while trying to find what career field would work best for me. because I found IO psychology truly because I was so miserable in my job. And I was so miserable in my job in the sense that I just couldn't understand how managers could care so little about people, and how much they can tell you about needing to reach certain goals and doing all these things, but they weren't showing you anything. And just made me so mad because I'm like, okay, I know I'm just like this account manager, but you guys suck. And it just made me so mad. And I was just like, there has to be something that exists out in this world that's focused specifically on making people better. And it not necessarily mean that you have to leave the company, but how can you get better? And how can you be better towards your employees?
As someone who personally knows you, the whole how can I help you be better piece really just like, you know what? I can see you as an IO psychologist. I can see you in this field, you know, because just our conversations, it's
Yeah.
Let's get to the root of this. Let's see why this is happening and let's see what we can do better. And
Yeah, like that honestly, it drives me. It drives me to help people be better. whether it's helping them have a different perspective in their day-to-day life on a certain thing, or if it's at work and I see someone, whatever it is, I'll find some way to try and help you, even if you don't ask for it. But I know it'll help you in the long run.
It's true. It's true. All righty, Iris. I have. So, Emmy, these are all being recorded, and they are available to you through campus groups under our video section. And if you need help finding how to access all the recordings, please connect with your peer mentor, or shoot your peer mentor an email, or shoot our ATA address an email, and we will get you the link to access all these videos. But that is a great question, and I'm dropping the email in the chat right now. And Iris, I have two more questions for you. We're going to end this on a positive note. The first one is, what has been your most proudest achievement thus far in your career? Or most proud achievement. I don't think proudest is grammatically correct.
It's strange because it kind of contradicts me. I was proud of and this is really based off of a trust factor. I am most proud that my supervisor, the president and vice president, trusted me to restructure our entire employee handbook, in addition to our division, in addition to currently, I am creating our first division chair employee manual. And it's because everyone was messing up so much that I wanted to give them a step-by-step on how to hire people.
That's a big deal. Like that's dope. That is dope. Like I don't. That's a big deal.
And it's because I do the hiring, and I was getting so fresh, like for the division chair manual. I was like, you guys are doctors here. How is it that you keep telling random strangers that they can work here, and you have them start working here, but I've never even heard of them? Which is something that's very popular in higher education. People like to just hire folks. And so I suggested to create a manual for all of them, and they trusted me enough to do it.
All righty. Now that's a big deal. And please email me when it's done, or just text me, say, hey, Ash, I did it.
That's going to be the gift that I send you.
Yes, please gift me with the manual. And then what is to come in the next, let's go with 3 to 5 years for you, Iris?
My goal, at least in a career educational standpoint, I plan to be done with grad school, hopefully by March. I anticipate getting more into people analytics, which I'm going to use this experience through. I want to get into people analytics so that I can work more on, same just like with the division chair and employee handbook, setting up, how do I say this? Finding the right people for a company. And by doing that with expansion beyond regional recruitment, I want to kind of do it more national based, and by that, help train companies to restructure their culture by being okay with hiring people that don't live locally. I feel like sometimes the applicant pool is slim because people are focusing on the immediate pool, when truly there are much more qualified employees and much more employees that would be a better fit that, you know, might want to work at UHD but live in Michigan right now. And I want to help set up those processes, since we're using a lot more AI technology to find those people based off of their social media platforms, based off of what is connected to them in their professional background.
Okay, so in March, please send the invite for graduation. If you choose to walk the stage, or if you're celebrating, please let us know.
You're gonna go to San Diego?
Yeah, I would love to go to San Diego.
Okay.
A reason.
That's where the school's at.
That is fine. I have vacation time. It's fine. I can do that.
Okay.
And then people analytics, is that you said using AI to find qualified individuals for positions? Would this be through your own consulting or working with you know, like ZipRecruiter or Indeed to help companies and organizations find qualified individuals?
I would want to work externally as a consultant directly with the organization and their HR departments. ZipRecruiter, Indeed, those are all great outsourcing, but sometimes by using a third party, that's always to me the downside to how much we outsource and use third party companies sometimes, because that initial connection with a person, if it's through a third party, they're getting to know the organization through someone else. So if your organization can be structured, even in the sense of, say, if you have some applicants that you want to hire, before hiring them, give them the realistic expectations of the company and what it looks like. Because I feel like even for Mobile, like I had a guy during COVID apply to be our Dean of Business and Finance, who flew from Ontario, Canada to Mobile for an interview. Had never visited Mobile before, nothing. Almost couldn't get back into his country, couldn't get back into Canada, because the very next day after his interview, Canada was going into a lockdown. But I feel, and so like with that, he didn't get the position, but he was almost offered it. But when I was talking to him, he was very surprised about not only how Mobile looked, he was surprised about the makeup of the school, didn't know that it was an HBCU. And so it's like little things like that that can deter a candidate. So if the way that you reach out to a candidate and the things that you kind of find out about them prior to an interview or during that entire interview stage can really help focus and filter who would be a better fit. And that's so much about saying the right thing that it really is pairing the right person.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's dope. And I'm excited to hear all the amazing things that you do. Maybe you'll find yourself in Texas helping UHD consult and find, best fit leaders for the institution, and wherever you go. I'm proud of you. And
Thank you.
how can we get in contact with you to stay updated and connect with you in the near future?
I can provide my email address. I can provide really anything.
All right. Do you mind dropping it in the
For
chat?
anything.
Do you mind dropping it in the chat for us?
I do not.
We are about 3 minutes out of our 3 o'clock mark. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope that you enjoyed the event and you gained some valuable information about pursuing a career in human resources or IO psychology.
It's honestly a very amazing field.
All righty, we have one more question, Iris, and that is book recommendations. What are you reading? What have you read that you enjoyed and would love to share with our students today?
One book that I'm reading right now, because of just in general what I've been interested in, so I've really just been reading books about the field, is, what is it called? What is it called? How to Think Right by Adam Grant. He's an organizational psychologist, where he pretty much just focuses on calling people out on poor practices.
Cool.
In the
Does he
sense
call him
that
man
like
as well?
he's the kind of guy, and he has his own podcast too. He's the kind of guy that he'll approach an executive seat or CEO and ask, why is everything so unilateral as far as people's positions?
Mhm.
Making it more of a group effort and splitting up teams. And he gave an example where the CEO is like, well, that's how we've always done it. So you think that it's right? You think that because of how we've always done it is the best practice, when your turnover rate is in the double digits. You can't keep anyone more than 6 months, but how you've always done it is the right way. And so he kind of just debunks all these bad practices that companies have to have them work better. I love him. I like authors that are a little sarcastic.
Okay. Well, we got How to Think Right in the chat. So if anybody wants to check it out, please do so. You can see if it's available at your UHD library, or, check it out on Amazon or wherever you get a book. But Iris, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. It was a pleasure seeing your face and connecting with you, learning more about the work that you do. I'm always excited to see my friends do their things and see them in their element. So this was a treat for me, and thank you for just taking the time to be available to have conversation with our students here in the ATA program.
Another Adam Grant that's really great is Originals. And it's pretty much about, and I just finished that one. It's essentially about just not going with the status quo of things and assuming that that's just how things should be. Because if all we did was kind of have an assembly line to life, to how we do things at work, we would just always be doing the same thing. There wouldn't be a new invention created. There wouldn't be the Nikes of the world. So sometimes your best bet is to be the original one that will change everything.
That's dope. It's dope. And I see you're doing it with IO psychology. And you are. No need to try because you are. But everybody, you should have received your CLC survey right now. It is 3:01, and that means we are done. Iris, do you have any words to share with us before you go?
Really just listen to yourself. That intuition when it comes to the direction and the field that you want to go, listen to that and have that be your starting point. It sounds overwhelming sometimes to have to start at the bottom of something, especially if you've been working for a while, or the mentality that as soon as you get your degree that you should automatically go into your career field. Sometimes starting at the bottom will give you a clearer perspective on what you want to do to help you move up. That's my thing. Just listen to yourself, whether learning, whether it's career-wise, you're telling yourself something.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Thank you, Sarah.
All righty, y'all. Well, that is it. Thank y'all for being with us today. If y'all have any questions, please feel free to hit us up at ata@uhd.edu. Stay connected to Miss IrisMarie and take good care, be safe, and we will see y'all very soon. Bye.
Bye.